listening to the Spirit Podcast.
Welcome back to the Spirit. I'm your host, Beck, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the one and only Rachel.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Rach. How you doing?
Hey, Beck. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. This is a show based after my heart.
Yeah, I have to say I'm a little bit better than I was yesterday. I don't know if you saw yesterday. We had a big spike in the Schumann resonance.
I did not see.
And I forgot to tell you about it. And I was getting a little dizzy, a lot of ear ringing stuff going on.
Huh.
Yeah.
I felt a little depression. Do you think you could feel depression off the Schumann resonance?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's funny because like anytime I ever feel a little off or something's weird, I open up TikTok and they're like massive shift in the Schumann resonance. And I'm like, okay.
So it could go either way. It could go where you're super energetic and feeling great, or you
Yep.
can feel down in the dumps or feel health effects from it.
Yeah. And a lot of it, it's like we're getting cleaned out, we're getting filtered. And a lot of it is such a strong energetic shift that our bodies, it's just hard for us to handle. But in the long run, it's for the good. It's for the best.
I hope so. Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever heard a voice that wasn't supposed to be there, Rach?
Many, many a times, Beck.
Did it freak you out?
It used to freak me out, especially when I was a child. But now I get lit up, excited like Christmas morning when I hear it.
Elated.
Elated.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today. Electronic voice phenomenon, or EVP.
Love me some EVPs.
Some say it's proof of communication with the dead. And others, they just think it's interference. But we're going to explore the history, the biggest cases, and even some personal stories.
I'm excited to dive in.
For those new to the term EVP, that stands for electronic voice phenomenon. It's when voices or sounds appear on recordings without any clear origin. Paranormal researchers believe these voices are spirits trying to communicate, but skeptics, they have their own theories. Some EVPs are whispers, some are clear words or sentences, and others, well, they're downright creepy. But where did this phenomenon start? I think we should go back to the early days.
Way back.
Father Ernetti was a Benedictine monk, physicist, and musicologist who worked in Italy during the mid-20th century. He was particularly interested in sound waves, harmonic frequencies, and the possibility of time manipulation. He was more famously associated with the chronovisor, which was a device he claimed could tune into historical events. Ernetti believed that voices of the deceased could be captured through electronic means. He suggested that certain frequencies, much like radio waves, could hold remnants of past conversations or even messages from beyond. While Ernetti did not discover EVP in the traditional sense, his work paralleled other EVP pioneers like Friedrich Jürgenson, who's officially credited with discovering EVP in 1959. However, his ideas about sound waves lingering through time influenced later paranormal researchers who believed EVP might be tied to residual energy imprints.
Just being a residual energy imprint is possible too.
Yeah.
I think there's different forms for sure.
Oh, there definitely is. There's no concrete evidence that Ernetti conducted EVP recordings like Marcello Bocci, who we'll do a brief dive into in a bit, but his work in frequency manipulation and sound wave theory laid the groundwork for future EVP studies. Some researchers speculate that his chronovisor may have been an early attempt to capture past voices in a similar way to EVP recordings.
Wouldn't you love to get your hands on the chronovisor?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I'd like to get my hands on a lot of stuff that just seems to be gone.
Absolutely.
The idea of spirit voices on recordings go way back. Thomas Edison, the guy who gave us the light bulb, actually talked about creating a device to communicate with the dead. He never finished it, but in the 1950s, a man named Friedrich Jürgenson changed everything. He was a filmmaker recording bird sounds when he heard something strange on playback. His deceased mother's voice calling his name. Then came Konstantin Raudive in the 1960s. I want to play a clip for the audience now. I need to preface this clip by saying that who you're hearing speak is Sarah Estep, and we'll talk a little bit more about her after the clip as well.
On the first part of this tape, you will have the opportunity to compare the telephone voice of Konstantin Raudive, early Latvian taped voice experimenter who died in 1974. These calls were made to 3 EVP experimenters in the United States. The first segment, lasting 40 seconds, came through my telephone at approximately 10:45 a.m. on January 27, 1994. My telephone rang normally. I was sitting at the desk in my office working. When I picked up the receiver, a clear male voice said, "This is Konstantin Raudive." I quickly pushed the record button of my Sano tape recorder that is connected to my telephone and asked, "How are you, Dr. Raudive?" This explains his first remark as my tape recorder began recording. "I'm as fine as a dead one can be." It is important to note he heard my question and responded to it in an appropriate way, perhaps showing a dry sense of humor. After that, he went on to complete his message, calling me by name and again saying his name at the end. You will then hear me say, "Thank you so much." You will notice there is no dial sound as he ends his contact, which you normally hear under usual phone call conditions. Others who have received phone calls from the other side have also remarked on the absence of dial tones. The second segment on the tape is a phone call George Meek, developer of the Spiricom system, and now living in North Carolina, received on the same morning as mine came through. The third segment is a phone call Mark Macy of Colorado received on February the 11th, 1994 through his answering machine. Mark had received a phone call several days before George and I did, as well as Walter Uphoff of Wisconsin. Unfortunately, Mark and Walter did not have a tape recorder connected to their telephone, as George and I did, so could not record Raudive's voice. In his second call, however, to Mark, as already mentioned, Mark found the message on the answering machine after he had been away from home a short time. Mark called George after listening to the message, and George confirmed Raudive had called him earlier that day.
I'm as fine as a dead one can be. Dear Sarah, thank you very much for everything you did for the propagation of the voices. We tried and we succeeded in building this bridge to the States. You are one of the first who are contacted by this meaning. Thank you very much for all the work you did. We are very proud and honored that we could contact you. I must interrupt now. This was the first contact. This was Konstantin Raudive speaking.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, this is George Meek.
This is Konstantin Raudive. George, my friend, at last we succeeded in contacting you. Jeanette is beside me, and she wants to give you all her love. This is Konstantin Raudive. This is the first contact you get from us. I suppose that you can hear me.
I can hear you very well, very plainly.
Fine, so this is the beginning of a new story, a new chapter, George. You are a very good friend of ours, even if we haven't met. We will continue this. This is the first bridge we succeeded to build to the States. Mark was contacted, and I must interrupt now.
Thank you, dear friend.
Konstantin Raudive speaking. We just tried to contact George Meek. We succeeded, but he didn't get what we wanted to tell him. We were talking to him that we tried to make a mediumistic contact to Gene Peterson, and he wanted to register by other means, electric means. There will be no telephone contact rather to the RITC group. Click mark. We will have strengthened the bridge, the mediumistic bridge, to our time stream group.
Yo, that is insane.
Have you ever gotten phone calls from the dead?
There have been calls where names come through or people come through and say some weird stuff, or someone will leave me a voicemail. They will call me my mother's name for some reason or some strange thing, but I did not have
Konstantin Raudive.
Yeah.
I've had calls as well that have come through to my voicemail. They've come through from my own phone number, which is odd, or they've come through 00000000000, etc. I also had a friend of mine that passed. She called her fiance after she died from her number to his number. It freaked him out so bad he didn't answer the phone, which I would have answered the phone. But
I'd answer the phone too.
He was just distraught. He was just beyond. And he called the phone company, flipping out on them, going, how is it possible that my dead fiance is calling from, or that her phone is calling my phone? And they had no answer. It happened twice. Second time he was upstairs when he heard his phone ringing all the way down. He just got out of the shower and he didn't make it down in time to answer it. But it came through on caller ID as her number again.
I would definitely run to the phone and answer it.
When I had my voicemails that were left to me, I think I still have them. I'm going to have to dig them out, but it sounded like a TV in the background was running, weirdly. But when I put my headphones on and analyzed it, I could hear relevant things like names of the people we talk to that are on the other side, my name, etc. But it literally sounded like someone had called me, set the phone on a table, and you could hear a television set just running. But it had messages.
That's really cool.
Konstantin recorded thousands of these voices, and he was convinced they were messages from beyond. Some were even in multiple languages.
Konstantin, he also worked with a German parapsychologist, Hans Bender. They did a lot of the work together on EVPs. He started researching such alleged voices on his own and spent much of the last 10 years of his life exploring EVP. With the help of various electronics experts, he recorded over 100,000 audio tapes, most of which were made under what he described as strictly laboratory conditions. He collaborated at times with Bender. Over 400 people were involved in his research, and all apparently heard the voices. This culminated in the 1968 publication. I'm not even going to try to say it. It's
in German.
It's translated to "What is inaudible becomes audible."
Or Latvian.
Yeah, something I'm not going to attempt. And the book was published in English in 1971 as Breakthrough. So there's another book I got to read. And his methods, he had several approaches that he developed. He used microphone voices. One simply leaves the tape recorder running with no one talking. He indicated that one could even disconnect the microphone. Radio voices. One records the white noise from a radio that is not tuned into any station. And diode voices. One records from what is essentially a crystal set, not tuned to
Germanium diode, yeah.
Yeah, to a station. The characteristics of the voices, as laid out in Breakthrough, the voice and titles speak very rapidly in a mixture of languages, sometimes as many as 5 or 6 in one sentence. They speak in a definite rhythm, which seems forced on them. The rhythmic mode imposes a shortened telegram-style phrase or sentence, and probably because of this, grammatical rules are frequently abandoned and neologisms abound.
Well, you got to remember, they don't have voice boxes. The biggest thing for the speed is that their vibration is higher. Spirit is vibrating on a very high, fast rate. So when psychics or mediums connect, if you ever notice, they have to bring their vibration up. Most mediums, psychics, when you go to classes, it's like tuning in a radio, they tell you. You have to get your vibration up to meet theirs because it's harder for spirit to lower their vibration to meet you on this thick 3D earth. So you bring your vibration up and you meet them halfway.
You know, it's interesting too. You and we went and saw a medium last week.
We did.
And she described that when she sees them, she hears them differently. And she believes that there is a farther back chakra that they communicate with her. So she sees them, but then hears them very differently.
Shout out to Susan. She was legit. We did proof her.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because we asked her, do you see them in the physical? She sees them in the physical, not in her mind's eye. And they looked like old film. Back in the day when you would actually use film and you would take that film slide or strip out after you'd bring it to get developed. That's what she sees. So it wasn't in great detail, but that's
So cool.
what she saw. It is pretty fascinating. I think we all have different abilities. So some are clairaudient, they can hear very clearly. Some are clairsentient, clairvoyant. I just find it interesting that it seems like everyone's like a snowflake. Everyone's so unique and different and special.
Absolutely. We both can see things, but we'll see things differently.
Yes, and I mostly hear things. For example, since we're talking about it, might as well. Rachel saw something zoom on into my guest bedroom last week.
Oh, I sure did.
I think that was a little boy. She immediately was like, let's go in. We had to investigate right away. We went in there and it was cold in there too. It was really
Freezing
weirdly. It wasn't
cold.
cold in here, which has
No.
the same heating structure, but we go in there, it was cold and we're standing quietly and we both hear a sound. And she had said, well, I feel like this being is sitting in this chair right here. And I do believe the sound we heard was the snap of the wood of the chair that the being was sitting in. And I do think it was that little boy that we were told about.
Yeah, we'll have to save that for another day.
Oh, definitely.
But there's a lot of cool information that this medium told us that completely aligns with things that we experience.
It's impossible to discuss EVP without mentioning my personal favorite, the late Sarah Estep. Sarah was a trailblazer in this field, founding the American Association of Electronic Voice Phenomena in 1982. Her work was driven by a deep curiosity about life after death, sparked by personal experiences and a desire to provide tangible evidence of survival beyond physical death. Sarah's journey into EVP began with a simple question. Is anybody there? Using her husband's old reel-to-reel tape recorder, which I would love to get my hands on one of those.
Hell yeah.
She conducted experiments that eventually led to what she described as contact with the other side. Her dedication and passion for EVP research inspired many, including myself, and helped establish EVP as a legitimate area of study. Under Sarah's leadership, the AAEVP grew from a small group of enthusiasts to international community of researchers and believers. She organized conferences, published newsletters, and provided a platform for people to share their experiences and findings. Her work has left a lasting legacy, and her contributions continue to influence the field of EVP research today. Her story is a testament to the power of curiosity and the pursuit of knowledge, even in the face of skepticism. And I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Her work has opened the doors for countless individuals seeking to understand the mysteries of life and death. She conducted several notable EVP experiments through her career. We spoke about the reel-to-reel tape recorder. Her journey began with her husband's old reel-to-reel, and she would ask questions like, is anybody there? And what is your world like? And on playback, she would claim to hear responses including the word beauty, which she interpreted as a contact from the other side. Sarah also conducted experiments where individuals received phone calls from deceased individuals. One of the famous cases was what we just heard from Konstantin Raudive, who was another pioneer in EVP research, and his voice was reportedly heard on multiple occasions. Sarah also operated the Spiricom, which was a device designed to facilitate communication with the spirit world. Have you ever heard the Spiricom, Rach?
What's the Spiricom?
It's a device. It sounds, to me, it's really hard on me to listen to. It's a little too much for me to pull in. I'll have to try to find an example and slot it in here.
Okay.
What's that again? Generator that we're using in conjunction with the input from the camera, from the television system. You understand what I mean? Yeah, I think that's it.
She recorded messages and claimed to receive responses from spirits, which she documented and shared with the EVP community. In her groundbreaking book, Voices of Eternity, Sarah Estep takes readers on a captivating journey into the mysterious world of electronic voice phenomenon. Published in 1988, the book details Sarah's personal experiences and extensive research into the phenomenon of hearing and recording voices from beyond the grave. Through compelling narratives, she shares her curiosity about life after death and how it led her to experiment with the reel-to-reel. You need to read this book, Rach. It's a great book.
I love reading, so just put it on my list.
Put it on the list. Yep. Voices of Eternity. Great book. I gobbled that right up. She also provides step-by-step instructions and tips for capturing these elusive voices, so that's helpful for anyone that's interested. And she recounts various instances where she recorded the message from loved ones and entities, and each instance strengthening her belief.
Hey, Spirit Seekers. Enjoying the show? Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Spirit. Leave us a review on Apple or Spotify and share the love. We drop a new video every week on our YouTube channel covering paranormal, conspiracy, high strangeness, and more. Have questions or want to share your own spooky story? Drop us a line at tothespiritpod@gmail.com. Stay spirited.
I was subscribed to Mark Macy for years. He had an email. He was one of the contactees of Konstantin Raudive. I think that was the last message we heard that was very, very rough.
Yeah.
And Mark said something very interesting in one of his newsletters that I was reading. He does a blog. He said that they had created this thing called the Bridge. And it was a group of researchers. And this bridge was the bridge to the other side where they could contact back and forth. He said that when we went into the year 2000, everything just stopped. All communication stopped. So there was something at the turn of that Y2K that caused the communication to stop or be very difficult to be able to connect. Because if you think about what we just heard, how amazing was that?
That was crystal clear. I would love to just have a clear flow communication like that.
That's what we are always striving for. That's what I'm always asking for. Like, why can't we have that kind of communication? But there was something that happened. I don't know if the earth shifted and we went on a different frequency or what happened, but I don't believe that we've been able to obtain that kind of connection since.
Maybe we should try to connect with Raudive and see
I've tried.
Oh, I haven't. I didn't even know the man existed. So.
I feel like you have to be more of an egghead to get in contact. I feel like I did make contact with Sarah Estep, though.
But maybe with our powers combined.
Hey, I'm not against trying again.
Look, I just feel like shit amps up when we're both doing it.
I agree on that. I think we need to talk about the classification by clarity, because this is important. A lot of people don't understand this. The system of EVP is based on categories. It's based on how clearly they can be understood without enhancement. Class A EVP, the clearest EVPs, easily understood without enhancement and recognizable by most listeners. There's a Class B, which is less clear, may require some audio enhancement or interpretation, and might not be universally recognized by all listeners. And then there's a Class C, very faint, distorted, or unclear. It often requires significant enhancement and interpretation. Class A example. We're watching you. That was captured by Sarah Estep. The voice was clear and recognizable without enhancement. A Class B example was Help Me. That was captured during an investigation in the Villisca axe murder house. Investigators heard a faint voice on playback, but it wasn't immediately clear. Class C example is an unintelligible whisper or distorted sounds common in low-quality recordings where speech is debated among listeners. Direct voice phenomena, DVP. That's a rare form where a voice is heard in real time by the investigator, sometimes without any recording device. Traditional EVP. Voice is captured on a recording device, but not heard at the time of the recording. Rach, you've heard something in the shower with your ear.
Oh, yeah.
That's a direct voice.
Those ones are the really wild ones.
Those
the
are wild.
EVPs.
Yeah, because you're just hearing spirit. I'm psychically connected in, or I heard it.
Or even when we're doing a session, but then we hear something outside of the spirit box.
The traditional EVP would be like the paranormal investigators that walk around with their recording device without a spirit box at play, and they pick up a word or a sentence. And then there's the radio sweep spirit box EVP, captured using devices like the spirit box, which rapidly scans radio frequency where voices might be heard. And there's a white noise EVP, captured using background white noise as a medium for spirit communication. Leslie Flint seances, a well-documented medium whose seances produce voices seemingly from thin air and was heard by everyone present. That is an example of a direct voice. The traditional example would be Friedrich Jürgenson, considered the father of EVP. Remember, he was taping those bird sounds when he picked up the voices of the dead. So that would be a traditional EVP. The radio sweep spirit box example would be the Conjuring House investigation in 2019. Investigators captured a spirit saying, "Get out," using a spirit box in the allegedly haunted home of the Parent family.
Is that with Ed and Lorraine Warren?
They went into that place, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. White noise EVP Marcello Bocci. He's Italian, 1960s through 70s. He was a priest who recorded EVP using white noise and reported conversations with deceased individuals. There's intelligent EVP, where the voice seems to directly respond to questions or acknowledge the investigator. There's residual EVP, which I think you touched upon, Rachel, where a repeated phrase or sound that does not directly interact. It's like an imprint of past events. A conversational EVP. That's a dialogue-like EVP where responses seem to continue logically across multiple questions. Commanding EVP. That's a voice that issues orders or instructions like "get out" or "stop." And a single word EVP. A simple word or short phrase that lacks context.
Then sometimes I think there's a eavesdrop EVP when we're just hearing other spirits communicating with each other.
I agree. They talk to each other saying "sit down" and stuff like that.
They're fighting to communicate, or they're like, "Get him out," or whatever.
They do. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. An example of an intelligent EVP was recorded on the Queen Mary when investigators asked, "What is your name?" and received a direct response, "John." The name matched ship records of a deceased worker. An example of a residual EVP would be the Gettysburg battlefield. Multiple investigators have recorded sounds of gunfire, marching, and soldiers yelling as if replaying a past event. A conversational EVP example is the Sally House in Kansas. An investigator asked, "Did you live here?" And the response was yes, with mother. Follow-up question, did something bad happen? And they received hurt fire. A commanding EVP example was Bobby Mackey's Music World in Kentucky. Investigators received a chilling command, "Leave now."
That's one place I wouldn't want to go. Is Bobby Mackey's.
I'm with you there. And a single word EVP example is at the Eastern State Penitentiary. A single whispered word, "murder," was recorded in an abandoned cell.
Oh, that's heartwarming.
Right? Yeah, I tend to stay away from that type of situation. Bobby Mackey's and institutions and hospitals, like, no thanks.
No, we'll chat with the sad poets. Do you think residuals in general, it's just kind of sad?
No, because I think it's like a tape imprint.
Okay.
I feel like if there's a traumatic event that takes place, for example, the Gettysburg battlefield, that was traumatic. It was so traumatic that it imprinted on the place. And so people see soldiers walking, horses walking, reenactments in a way.
So you don't think it is souls trapped in time just repeating over and over?
I don't personally feel
event.
that. I mean, I don't know for sure the answer, but I don't personally feel that that's the case. Because I think there are things like granite, certain stones, minerals, rocks, limestone. It can act as though it's a tape recorder, and it can record things that seem haunting.
I wonder in places where there have been mass murder or something like that, if it is just an energetic reenactment or if the actual spirit that caused those murders, if they, like you see in the movies, they kind of trap the innocent souls and they keep repeating it. So
I think it could be both.
yeah,
That's a good point. That could be both, that someone died so traumatically that they were unable to cross or move on. But I think it comes down to interaction. Is this entity interacting with you directly, or is it just walking by on a loop?
right.
I'd love to talk about Marcello Bocci. Do you know much about him, Rach?
I don't, but I think I'm about to learn.
There is a great documentary on him. I think it might even be on YouTube, but if you look up Marcello Bocci, you can see his body of work. It's been recorded. He's one of the most intriguing figures in EVP research. From Italy, humble Catholic priest, Bocci spent decades experimenting with direct radio voices. Kind of like what you and I do at times.
And you know, the people who get into this, it's like they spend so much time, and I completely understand. I don't think I could ever not study this.
Well, you have to. In order to establish that connection, you have to put the time in. The spirit world has to know that you want to connect, and they see your heart. And if your heart is in it, they're there.
Some people are so terrified. They don't even want to attempt. And I think you and I have such a comfortability of it now. We have to.
I think so. We know about boundaries and protection too, so we know that if things are going south.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Unlike Jürgenson and Raudive, they relied on tape recorders. Bocci used a modified radio, claiming spirits could communicate in real time. Witnesses who sat in on Bocci's sessions reported hearing voices of deceased loved ones, sometimes responding to personal questions. Many of these voices carried recognizable tones and accents. Bocci never sought fame or financial gain. He genuinely believed he was helping bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Skeptics argued radio signals could have interfered, but even under controlled conditions, voices still appeared. The thing is, when you watch that documentary, he was using a tube radio, like the old tube radios. They had tubes that powered them. These people pulled the tubes, which essentially meant that there was no power to this thing, and it still put voices out.
Oh,
Yeah. So
That's-
no matter what they did to him, he was still getting the voices to come through. He would have mass gatherings of people that would show up, almost like a little church, and they would sit in folding chairs and wait for him to use his radio. And he was the conduit. So him controlling that radio, if you put anyone else at that radio, it wouldn't have worked.
That's how you used to be. When you and I first started doing it together, you would walk away and it would just be silent.
I wanted to see, if I leave this room, do you get anything? And my mother would not work. Steph, it would not work. It didn't work for you until the day I said, go talk to Rachel.
Yeah. And I started practicing it at home more and more. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. He's a fascinating figure. And I love the fact that he was never out to swindle or take anything from anybody. He was just trying to provide solace to people that were grieving. He had apports that would appear. For example, maybe there would be a woman that lost her son in the war and his dog tags would just drop out of nowhere in front of her. Pictures, all sorts of really cool things. That's something that I speak about. It bothers me that there's a lot of people out there that do spiritual work based solely on monetary gain. It bothers me because I feel like God gave you this gift, this ability to use to help and be of service to others. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be rewarded for your services, but when you're out asking for $500, $150 for 30 minutes to sit and possibly connect, we don't know if you're real or not.
I think karma. I believe that a lot of times there should be some sort of exchange, but to just charge ridiculous prices. And for people who are grieving, who are vulnerable, and they go into debt because they think that you're going to cure them of their grieving, and sometimes they're not even legitimate.
People will throw money down to a psychic or a medium and just think, oh, this is the truth. Well, where's the proof? Where is the actual proof besides possibly hitting on some data, some connection? Maybe they get it completely right. But when you're working with EVP, that is the proof. You are hearing the names, the associations, the words that come through that are triggers that go, oh my God, yeah, that's my grandma. She knew about my bicycle. Or
you have a conversation about a specific topic, and then you go do a session, and then they bring up the topic. Basically what happens to us every week.
yeah. I was testing out my equipment and I was recording with Kat, and I played a song, and I'll actually slot this in for everybody after.
Yeah.
But I played a song, and I probably can't play the song because of copyright. I'll play like 2 seconds of it. And I said, can you hear this, to her? And she says, oh, it sounds choppy. I can't really hear it. It's coming in and out. This recording equipment isn't working well. I'm going to have to figure something out. I pulled the recording and I put it onto my computer and I listened back to it. And I heard something completely different than what I played. What was supposed to be music was actually voices. And one of them was maybe more than one. I'm not sure.
I think there were like 2 voices.
One of them said Rachel's name. We're pretty sure. And then the next thing they said was shoo shoo.
Shoo shoo and something
else.
shitty, right?
Yeah. Oh, this is shit or something. Yeah. Because it did. It was shit. The sound was shit. Rachel and I do a session right after we're done recording our weekly podcast. And as we're doing our EVP session, we hear
Shoo shoo.
Yeah. And we're
like, shoo shoo.
We're like, what the hell? What's the context of this? Like, should we be shoo-shooing something away? I mean, what is...
Right.
Really cool. But I will slot that in here now for you to hear.
Shoo shoo. Shoo. Shit sucks. Shoo shoo. Shoo. Shit sucks.
Now we're going to move on to the Society for Cyclical Research, SPR. Founded in 1882, the SPR was one of the first organizations to scientifically investigate paranormal phenomena, including EVP. Though their early work was primarily focused on mediumship, they later explored spirit voices recorded electronically. They took a cautious approach, analyzing recordings for potential interference and psychological factors like auditory
pareidolia.
She got it this
I did
time.
I had to say it in a very serious manner, and then I said it.
Pareidolia is the tendency to perceive familiar patterns in random noise, or you can see them visually. Raymond Cass was a British EVP researcher who worked extensively in the 1960s and 70s. He believed EVP provided scientific proof of afterlife communication and recorded thousands of anomalous voices. Cass collaborated with David Ellis, a linguistic expert who sought to determine if these voices followed normal speech patterns or exhibited unnatural distortions. Ellis conducted controlled experiments recording in soundproof rooms to eliminate external interference. Yet, strange voices still appeared, sometimes in different languages, dialects, or even in ancient tongues. Some recordings were intelligent responses, answering direct questions in ways that seemed beyond coincidence. Key findings from their experiments: they had intelligent responses. Many EVP voices directly answered questions posed by the researchers. They had multi-language messages. Some responses were recorded in languages the experimenters didn't speak, including Latin and Old English. Unusual speech patterns. Some voices contained distortions or unnatural speed variations, as we talked about earlier. And voices from unknown sources. In controlled settings where radio signals were blocked, voices still manifested.
I feel like we get a lot of Latin.
I get Spanish, which I can't speak.
Yeah, we get a lot of Spanish,
too. And French. We get French. It's funny because if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't be able to translate some of these things, you know?
Yeah, we're like, what is this word?
Yeah, well, what is this? And then it's beautiful when you end up translating it. It's, I love you. We love you. It's all beautiful things.
Because that's what we attract and that's what we allow. It's a high vibrational.
And what you're putting in behind it. It's who you are as a person. If you're looking for trouble, you're going to get trouble. Cass and Ellis's work was groundbreaking but controversial. Skeptics argued the recordings were audio artifact misinterpretations or even subconscious projections from the researchers themselves. Despite this, their findings remain some of the most compelling EVP studies to come out of England. One of the most infamous EVP cases happened at the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Paranormal investigators captured a voice whispering, "Get out." Now, if a ghost told you to leave, would you listen?
The get out is the creepiest ones that they say.
I had a lady scream, "Get out" of my house when I moved in here, and I felt all the hair on my neck go right up, man. I'll never forget that because she was really pissed I was here.
Well, you gotta be like, hey, listen, we gotta have a chat.
I did. I did. I actually didn't do it then because I was so freaked out, but I ended up coming back in and facing her and telling her, hey, I'm going to make this place better. Just calm down. I'm going to take care of the home. I'm going to take care of the property. We're going to be friends.
Yeah, you're not going to be like Delia Dietz and make it all funky and weird.
Another famous case is the Queen Mary. Visitors and ghost hunters captured the sounds of a child giggling and even full conversations. And these aren't just random noises. Some responses seem intelligent, but not everyone's convinced, which brings us to the skeptical side. Scientists argue that EVP could be radio interference, audio pareidolia. Say it again.
Pareidolia.
Our brains making sense of random noise, or even our own subconscious projecting what we want to hear. One interesting experiment involved recording in silent rooms with no background noise, no radio waves. And guess what? Some EVPs still appeared. So is it interference or something more?
Something more.
For those that are curious, EVP sessions aren't just for ghost hunters. All you need is a recorder and a quiet space. And I'm going to give you a little quick guide. Ask clear questions. Leave space for responses. Play back and listen closely. And set a time daily or weekly to connect.
And if you want to feel a little bit more comfortable about it, if it scares you, say a little prayer before and after the session.
I cannot stress that enough. It is very important. Protecting yourself is never a bad thing. Saying a prayer for protection before you start is key. And then closing the session, just as you would with a Ouija board, saying goodbye.
But don't ever mess with Ouija boards.
Right. And people say, well, what the hell's the difference between a Ouija board and EVP? You're still connecting to the dead. With EVP, you can hear what you're connecting to. With a spirit board, you don't know who's talking to you. A planchette's moving around the board. Could be grandma, could be a demon. With EVP, when you start hearing things go south, you say your prayer and you close that down right away.
As I learned from Beck, we all have our own little spirit team, people that are always with us, and they will protect you, and you will hear them specifically tell somebody to get out or leave. You'll know a difference between someone telling you to get out and leave, or you can hear other people saying, get out, leave, you're not welcome.
It's interesting because our brains always want to make things that aren't there or put things together incorrectly. When you're doing EVP, it's kind of like puzzle pieces. Mm-hmm. You're getting a word here or a symbol through a language. And you might immediately go, war? There's war? War's coming? But you have to actually take the time and piece it together. Think logically about things. Sometimes things don't even hit till after it happens. So you might get words that are kind of like, what's going on here? And then it happens. There's nothing wrong with my roof. My roof's fine, but then the roof's leaking in a month. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with my car. Why are they saying brake pads or accident or police? Sometimes you'll get these messages in advance and you don't know when it's going to happen. And sometimes they're real time.
Fun story about EVPs, something that happened recently, is my grandmother, who I'm very, very close with, was feeling rather down. My mother is her daughter who passed in 2020. She obviously still has a lot of grief about it, and she had just had a rough weekend.
Well, no parent wants to lose a child.
Right. So I went over there yesterday. Didn't really give her an option. I said, I'm coming over for tea. And we talk, and I told her, I said, Grandma, my friend Becky and I, we do these EVP sessions, and she had no idea what that was. So I kind of explained it to her. And I played some things. I said, they say her name, they say your name. And I played one that I couldn't audibly hear. And I played it for you too. We both didn't get the sentence out.
Okay.
We heard Mary, Mother, something, something. I played it for her. Now, my grandmother can't hear. She's got hearing aids and she still cannot hear half the things I say. I played it from my phone. This is really interesting because it really makes me believe it's on a different frequency. I play it from my phone on the couch, a good distance from her, and she hears it clear as day. And she says, it says, Mary, Mother, name, Hale. Hale's her maiden name. And she heard it so confidently. I was shocked because I didn't hear it that clearly. But then after she had said that, I could hear it. But every time I played her, my mother's name, her name, she heard it absolutely clear. So that is very interesting that I can sit there and yell at her and she doesn't hear it, but I can play these EVPs that come through on spirit box sessions and she can hear that completely.
So how much of this do you think intertwines with psychic intuition and levels of ability? Because I believe that it takes certain people to be able to discern them. If you played that EVP for the average Joe, they would hear garbled mess. They would not even be able to pick out half of what we picked out. But because your grandmother is connected to your mother, she is the mother of your mother. Mm-hmm. I think it runs in families, as we know. And I think she was able to pick that up because of having a psychic intuition.
Yeah, my grandmother's definitely a sensitive empath. It runs definitely in my mother's line.
It is in most families.
And I feel like the psychic picks up a lot on the maternal line for me too.
I have to agree. That's the same with me. The older generation in my family turned it off because they were afraid of it. They didn't want to deal with it. As time has progressed and things have become more open, obviously there's ghost hunting shows and people are more open and susceptible to this, that we're more accepting and open to these methods of communication.
My paternal line, very strong too. My father's mother is very psychic and she definitely carried that down to my aunts and uncles and my father too.
My grandma and your grandma sitting by the recorder. Listen, if you want to try this, do it. Just be careful what you wish for. Some investigators have reported voices following them home.
Or you just get stronger. You become more open and you're going to hear it more. The more you practice it, the more you're just going to start hearing things and experiencing things. So if you're ready for that, dive in and do it. It's great. It's an ability that we should all really just hone in on. It's really cool once you just let go of that fear.
It also depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for the ghost in the abandoned house, or are you looking to talk with grandma? Because if you're looking to talk with the ghost, well, you might be disappointed.
Yeah, sometimes ghosts, they can be fun, sometimes not so much.
Yeah, it's just a different energy. It depends on what you're looking for. I'm not going to knock the people that go out and do that, but what are you gleaning from it? Are you just doing it just to do it because it gives you a thrill?
Yeah, it's like, are you going for the adrenaline rush? Are you looking for a little oxytocin happiness type of feeling instead?
Exactly. So if you're going for that connection, you should definitely go into it not being afraid, being protected, and taking the time to establish that connection. So whether you believe EVP is real or it's just our minds playing tricks, one thing's for sure, it is a fascinating mystery. And who knows, maybe the next time you hit record, you'll hear something unexpected. Let us know, have you ever captured an EVP? Send us your stories and we might feature them on a future episode.
You may just hear an EVP during this podcast.
You may.
Open up. EVPs are really, really cool. I love doing it, and that's about it.
Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, keep listening. You never know who or what might be speaking. Bye, guys.
Bye.
To the Spirit
Podcast.
Supernatural science.
Aliens.
I'm ghost.
Psychic.
Mystic
Spirits.
Divine source.
Heaven. The dead. It's magic.